I picked up the DNA report with shaking hands. And there it was. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. I stared at it, waiting for it to change. But it didn't. 8 years. Every laugh, every bedtime story, every birthday candle. And he wasn't mine. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there, realizing the life I built was based on a lie. And the woman I loved, she knew the whole time. I remember the exact moment everything started to fall apart. It was a regular Thursday afternoon. My 8-year-old son, Caleb, had just finished his after-school math club. He ran toward my car with his usual grin, backpack bouncing, talking a mile a minute. I opened the door for him, and he jumped into the back seat, still bubbling with excitement. "Dad, I got a perfect score today. Miss Jensen said my handwriting's improving too. Oh, and guess what? Aaron got grounded because he sprayed water at the whiteboard." I laughed, half listening, until he said something that froze me in place. "Oh, and Aaron's real dad isn't his actual dad, but he still treats him like one. Just like you and me, right?" My hands went cold on the steering wheel. I turned slightly and asked as casually as I could, "What do you mean, buddy?" Caleb shrugged, like it was nothing. "Well, I heard Mom talking to Aunt Lisa when she thought I was asleep. She said I don't really look like you, that I look more like someone named Brian." That name, Brian, it hit me like a brick to the chest. Not just a name, not a co-worker, not a cousin. Brian was the guy my wife Emily had sworn she barely even knew years ago. The guy whose name used to show up on her phone late at night when we were newly married, until I asked, and she said it was nothing, that I was overreacting. That night, I didn't sleep. Emily lay beside me, breathing steady, curled into my arm like always, but her touch felt foreign. Like I was being held by a stranger playing my wife. I stared up at the ceiling, my chest tight. All I could hear was Caleb's voice echoing again and again. She said, "I don't really look like you." The next morning, I dropped Caleb off at school, just like normal, but I didn't go straight home. I sat in the car, in the driveway, for over an hour. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at myself in the rearview mirror and asked the question that had already taken root in my chest. What if he's not mine? Not in a jealous, possessive way, not in anger, but in grief. Grief for a version of my life that might have never been real. I started replaying the little things, how Emily always brushed off the fact that Caleb didn't really look like me. That one time I suggested a paternity test just to be safe when Caleb was a baby, and Emily sobbed like I'd insulted her honor. How she shut down every conversation about Brian with words like, "You're paranoid," or "He doesn't matter." I had let it go. I trusted her. I loved her. But now I couldn't unhear what my son said. So I made a decision. I would take a DNA test, quietly. No confrontation, no accusations, no drama, just the truth. Because sometimes the truth hurts. But the lie destroys you slowly. I didn't waste time. The next day, while Emily was out grocery shopping, I went online and ordered a discreet home DNA testing kit. It was one of those no-fuss ones. Cheek swabs, clear instructions, prepaid return envelope, simple, quiet, private. I told myself this wasn't about catching anyone. It wasn't revenge. It was confirmation. I had to know if the son I'd loved, raised, and held since birth was really mine. The kit arrived in a plain white envelope 3 days later. That night, while Caleb was busy building a Lego spaceship in the living room and Emily was folding laundry upstairs, I did it. I walked into the kitchen, called Caleb over, and said, "Hey bud, want to do a little science experiment with me?" He lit up like it was Christmas. "Yeah, what kind?" "We're gonna take some cheek swabs. It's fun. Just rub this cotton thingy inside your cheek, then we seal it up. Easy." He laughed and made funny faces while I swabbed his mouth. He had no idea what it was for, and that hurt more than anything. He trusted me completely, and I was keeping a secret. I waited until he went to sleep. Then I went into the bathroom, swabbed myself, and sealed the envelope. I stood by the mailbox for a full 5 minutes before dropping it in. Like once I let go, the truth would be out of my hands forever. And honestly, that's exactly what it felt like. The wait nearly killed me. 7 days. That's how long it took. And during those 7 days, I smiled through dinners, helped Caleb with his homework, watched Emily like a hawk. Not obviously, but I paid attention to every move she made. Every time she glanced at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. Every excuse she made to leave the room. Every time she used the word ours, I started to notice small cracks, like how she always changed the subject when I brought up our early years together, or how she'd randomly bring up how much Caleb has your patience or your sense of humor. It felt rehearsed, like she was trying to convince me or herself. The results arrived on a rainy Thursday morning. Email notification. Subject line, your DNA results are ready. My heart nearly stopped. I sat at my desk, hand hovering over the mouse, staring at the screen like it held a loaded weapon. And then I clicked. The screen loaded slowly. Too slowly. And there it was. Probability of paternity, 0.00%, 0. Not even close. No margin of error. No inconclusive. Just black and white truth. I wasn't his biological father. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even move. I just sat there, staring at a truth that didn't feel real. 8 years, 8 birthdays, 8 Christmas mornings, first steps, first words, sleepless nights, laughter, bedtime stories, hugs that melted stress, tears I wiped away. All of it suddenly felt like it belonged to someone else. But here's the thing, I still loved Caleb. That didn't change. But what did change was everything I thought I knew about my marriage. Because now, it wasn't just suspicion. Now, it was fact. And once you know the truth, you can't go back. That night, Emily made spaghetti, Caleb's favorite. The house smelled like garlic bread and comfort. I sat across from her at the dinner table, watching the way she smiled when Caleb talked about his math test. She laughed when he made a goofy joke, nudged me when I didn't respond fast enough. She was perfect, too perfect. It was the kind of perfect that made your skin crawl when you knew it was built on a lie. After dinner, Caleb went to his room to build another Lego masterpiece, and Emily started rinsing dishes. I stood behind her, heart pounding, fingers twitching. I thought I was ready, but I wasn't. "Hey," I said casually, "can I ask you something?" She glanced over her shoulder, cheerful. "Sure. What's up?" I studied her face. Every wrinkle, every freckle, every tiny movement. How do you look someone in the eye when you know they've been hiding something this big? Do you remember Brian? Her hands froze under the running water. That was all I needed. Her smile cracked, just a hair, but enough. "Brian," she said too quickly. "Why would you ask about him?" "Because I've been thinking about some things Caleb said, and I need to know something, Emily." Her eyes locked with mine now. I took a deep breath and asked it straight. "Is he Caleb's father?" For a moment, she said nothing. And then came the lie, the kind of lie that comes coated in years of fear and panic. "What? No, of course not. Why would you even think that?" Her voice hit all the right notes, shocked, offended, wounded, but she didn't know I had the truth already. I didn't say anything, just stared at her, let the silence stretch until it wrapped around her throat like a noose. That's when her bottom lip started to tremble. That's when the panic set in. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, listen, can we please not do this right now? Not like this." That was it. No denial, just fear, guilt, and the look in her eyes, the one that silently screamed, "He knows, I didn't." Explode, didn't accuse. I walked into our bedroom, grabbed my laptop, opened the email, and turned the screen toward her. "This is from a week ago," I said. "I took the test after Caleb mentioned something weird. I wanted to believe I was overthinking it. But I wasn't." She sat down at the table slowly, like her knees stopped working. She stared at the screen, then at me. Her voice broke into a whisper. I was scared. She told me the story, through tears, through trembling lips, through hands that couldn't stop shaking. Brian was a mistake. One night, during a rough patch in our first year of marriage, she swore she didn't know she got pregnant until months later, and by then, she convinced herself it had to be mine, and she wanted it to be mine so badly. She buried it, built a life on top of it, buried it so deep she started to believe it. "You were always going to be his father," she said. That never changed, but it had changed, because she changed it. She took away my right to choose, my right to know, my right to protect myself from this exact kind of pain. I didn't yell, I didn't throw anything. I just asked her to leave this house that night. She begged, said it would traumatize Caleb, but I reminded her she did that, not me. That night, after she left, I sat in Caleb's room while he slept, watched him breathe, watched the way his chest rose and fell, unaware of the chaos unraveling outside his dreams, and I whispered to him, I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but I love you. No matter what, and I meant it. But love, I was learning, doesn't always come with clarity. Sometimes it comes with consequences. The next morning, the house was too quiet. Emily had taken a few things and gone to her sister's. I didn't ask where exactly. I didn't care. Right now, all I needed was space, to breathe, to think, to figure out how the hell I was supposed to move forward with the truth. Like this sitting on my chest. Caleb woke up like any other day, sleepy-eyed, hair sticking up, asking for waffles. I made them without a word, sat with him while he ate, smiled when he showed me the little Lego boat he finished, and the whole time I wondered, do I tell him? When? How? Does an 8-year-old even need to know something like this? I looked at his face, his innocent, happy face, and felt my heart rip a little more. He had no idea that everything around him was unraveling. Around noon, Emily texted, Can we talk later today? Just us? I didn't respond right away, but I knew we needed to. I dropped Caleb off at his friend's house for a sleepover that evening, told him Mum and Dad needed some grown-up time. He hugged me and ran off laughing. No clue how heavy my heart felt. Emily arrived around 7 p.m. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were swollen, her shoulders slumped. She stepped inside, like the house itself might spit her out. We sat in the living room, 2 feet apart, but emotionally miles away. I need you to understand, she started. I didn't plan for this. I didn't even know for sure back then. I wanted to protect you. No, I interrupted. You wanted to protect yourself. She didn't deny it. She just nodded, tears welling up again. I didn't think the truth would do anything but ruin us. You were such a good father from the start. I thought, what difference would it make? I laughed bitterly. You thought I'd never find out. That's what this was. You gambled with my trust. It wasn't a game, she said softly. Then why did you hide it like one? The room was thick with silence, and then she asked the question I'd been dreading. What now? I didn't answer right away, because the truth was, I didn't know. I still loved Caleb. That wasn't even a question. But Emily? I didn't know what I felt anymore. I finally said, I need time. I'm not making any decisions today, but I'll be honest with you, this changes everything. She nodded, sniffling, wiping her face. Do you want to tell Caleb? I shook my head. Not yet. Not unless we absolutely have to. Because how do you explain something like this to a child? Hey, buddy, remember how I'm your dad? Well, biologically I'm not, but emotionally I still am. That's all that matters, right? No, that wasn't a conversation I was ready for. That night, after she left again, I sat at my laptop. I searched what to do when you find out your child isn't biologically yours. Hundreds of articles, forums, stories, men who walked away, men who stayed, men who fought for custody, men who spiraled into depression, men who forgave, men who never could. I wasn't sure which kind I'd be yet, but I knew one thing for certain. The father Caleb knew. I'd never let that version of me disappear. Not for him. Even if everything else did. The days that followed were mechanical. Wake up. Get Caleb ready. Go to work. Come home. Pretend. Pretend like I wasn't dying inside. Pretend like the image of that DNA result wasn't still burned into my brain. Pretend like the woman I shared a bed with for nearly a decade hadn't rewritten the beginning of our story without telling me. But most of all, pretend like my son was still mine. The thing is, he still called me Dad with that same excited grin. Still waited at the door every evening when I got home. Still curled up on the couch with me to watch cartoons, arms around my waist like nothing had changed. And maybe for him, nothing had. But for me, every moment felt like a test. Could I still show up? Could I still be the man he believed in? One night, we were playing video games. He paused mid-match and looked up at me. "Dad?" "Yeah, buddy. Are you okay lately? You seem tired." My throat tightened. This kid, he could read me better than most adults. "Yeah, just work stuff. Grown-up stuff, you know." He nodded, then leaned into me. "You're still the best dad ever." It took everything I had not to cry. Later, that night, I sat in the kitchen alone, staring at the same 2 whiskey bottles I hadn't touched since Emily left. I picked one up, held it in my hand, then put it back, because if I let myself fall apart, he would pay the price, and he didn't deserve that. Emily kept her distance. We spoke only when necessary, exchanged Caleb's schedule, school updates, nothing personal, but she wanted more. She sent messages, long, emotional ones, some apologizing, others begging, a few trying to explain, but none of them changed the facts. She had lied. For 8 years, she had watched me give everything to a child I didn't even know wasn't mine, and let me believe it was all real. It was real, to me. But now, I was carrying it alone. I booked a therapy appointment, not because I thought I was losing it, but because I didn't want to. I needed someone to tell me I wasn't crazy for loving a child who wasn't mine. And the therapist said something that stuck with me. "You didn't raise DNA. You raised a human being. Love doesn't start in a lab. It starts in the daily moments, and you've had thousands of them." That line, it cracked something open in me. I started journaling, writing letters to Caleb I'd never show him. Not now, maybe not ever. Letters that said, "You didn't choose this, neither did I. But I chose you, every single day. And I still do." I didn't know what my relationship with Emily would become, but I knew what I wanted my relationship with Caleb to be: unshakable, not because of biology, but because of love. It had been almost a month since the DNA results came in. A month of pretending. A month of staring at Emily's messages without replying. A month of standing at a crossroad where every path hurt. Then one day, she showed up at the door. No warning, just there. She stood on the porch holding a photo album. Her eyes were tired, her hair pulled back like she hadn't looked in a mirror all day. She didn't ask to come in. She just said, "Can I talk?" "You don't even have to say anything. Just let me explain the parts I never had the courage to." I almost shut the door, but something in her face, maybe guilt, maybe desperation, made me step aside. We sat at the kitchen table, same spot where I used to drink coffee while she packed Caleb's lunch. Same spot where we celebrated his first day of kindergarten, where we talked about getting a dog, buying a bigger house, growing old together. Now, it was a confession booth. She opened the album and slid it across to me. "I want you to see what I see when I look at our son." Each photo showed me and Caleb at the zoo, at the beach, asleep on the couch, laughing in the backyard. Moments I had forgotten. Moments she hadn't. "I watched you become the best father I've ever seen," she said quietly. "And every day it made it harder to tell you the truth, because I knew what I was risking." "Then why didn't you?" I asked, my voice colder than I intended. "Why did you let me live a lie?" She wiped a tear from her cheek and stared at her hands. "Because I thought if I told you, I'd lose everything. I thought you'd leave, and I couldn't bear to lose the 2 of you." "But you already lost me, Emily. You just didn't feel it until now." I asked her what happened with Brian, and this time she told me everything. No more sugarcoating. "It wasn't just a mistake. It was an affair. Not long-term, but emotional. Messy. During a period when we'd been distant. Back when I worked late every night, trying to build our future. While I was building, she was breaking. I ended it before I even found out I was pregnant, she said. But once I realized, I convinced myself Caleb had to be yours. I told myself the timing worked, that I'd never have to know for sure. And when he was born, I asked. She swallowed hard. When he was born and didn't look like you, I told myself babies change, that maybe I was imagining it. I never wanted to test it, because if I did, it would be real. I didn't speak for a while, because how do you respond to that? To a woman who carried this secret through every birthday, every Christmas morning, every bedtime story. I hated her in that moment, and I pitied her too, because I saw how scared she was, not just of losing me, but of losing the version of herself that looked like a good person. Then she asked the question I'd been avoiding. Do you want full custody? I looked at her, really looked. She wasn't trying to escape. She was bracing for punishment. I sighed. I don't know what I want yet, but I know this. Caleb deserves stability. He deserves love, not a war zone. So, joint for now? She asked carefully. I nodded. Not because I forgave her, but because my son needed both parents, no matter how broken one of them was. As she left that night, she turned at the door. You may not believe this anymore, but you were the best thing that ever happened to me. I didn't answer, because sometimes silence is the only honest thing left. Time moved differently after that night. Everything slowed down. Mornings felt heavier. Even the sound of Caleb's laughter, which once lit up my whole day, now felt layered, beautiful and heartbreaking all at once. I knew he was innocent. None of this was his fault. But every smile, every hug, every I love you, Dad, was a reminder of the truth I now carried alone. Emily and I stayed civil, for Caleb's sake. Joint custody, agreed. No lawyers yet. We took turns. Drop-offs were short. Texts were minimal. We didn't fight, but we didn't talk either. The space between us wasn't silence. It was survival. I kept going to therapy. It helped more than I expected. One session, I told the therapist, sometimes I look at him and feel proud. Other times, I look at him and feel like an imposter. He nodded. That's grief, he said. You're grieving the life you thought you had and grieving the man you believed you were. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you real. One night, after Caleb's school play, he and I went out for ice cream. He was still wearing his cardboard astronaut helmet, sticky fingers covered in sprinkles. Did I do good, Dad? He asked, voice full of hope. I smiled and ruffled his hair. You did better than good. You were amazing. He beamed, then looked at me curiously. Are you and Mom ever going to live together again? That question hit harder than any DNA result. I paused, looked him in the eyes. I don't know, buddy. Grown-up stuff is complicated. But you know what's not complicated? What? How much I love you. That part's simple. That never changes. He didn't ask anything else. He just leaned in and hugged me. And in that moment, I realized something. It didn't matter who created him. I had become his father. Still, there were days when the hurt returned like a wave. A photo from when he was born. A passing comment about how he doesn't really look like you. A friend sharing baby news. Something I now knew could come with invisible betrayals. I started journaling again. Not letters this time, lists, truths. Caleb is my son. Even if science says otherwise, I didn't fail. I was failed. Loving him doesn't make me naive. It makes me brave. Forgiveness is not permission. Healing doesn't mean forgetting. I deserve peace. One entry simply read, being a father is not biology. It's presence. It's patience. It's showing up even when your heart is broken. And I had shown up every single day. Emily texted a few days later. He wants us all to do something together this weekend. A movie? I stared at the message. The idea of being in the same room again. But for Caleb, I said yes. I could sit through a movie. I could play the role for 2 hours. Not for her, not for myself, for him. We met at the theater on a Saturday afternoon. Emily arrived first with Caleb, who spotted me in the parking lot and ran over, arms wide open, like nothing had ever been broken. Dad, guess what? We got popcorn with extra butter. I smiled and picked him up like I always did. His excitement was pure, untouched by the emotional wreckage we were tiptoeing through as adults. Emily and I exchanged a polite nod. Nothing more. We were two people playing a part for someone we both loved. And for the first time, I was okay with that. The movie was a kid's sci-fi adventure. Cheesy dialogue, bright colors, overly dramatic music. But Caleb was glued to the screen, his eyes wide, whispering commentary during every big moment. Halfway through, he leaned over to me and whispered, if I were a space pilot, you'd be my co-pilot, Dad. And that was the kind of moment no DNA result could erase. After the movie, we walked out together. Caleb skipped ahead, pretending to shoot aliens with his straw wrapper. Emily walked beside me, a few feet of awkward silence between us. He's okay, she said finally. I mean, he's really okay. He hasn't sensed a thing. That's because we're shielding him, I said. He doesn't know the ground beneath him shifted. Should he? She asked quietly. I stopped walking. Eventually, yes. Not now. But I won't let him grow up believing something false. He deserves the truth. Just not yet. She nodded, eyes lowered. I understand. That night, after dropping Caleb off, I stayed in my car for a long time. Looked at myself in the mirror. I looked older, not just in years, but in weight, emotional erosion. I used to see a man who had it all figured out. Now, I saw someone who had crawled through fire and was still limping out of the ashes. But I also saw something else. Strength. Not the loud, masculine, chest-thumping kind, the quiet kind, the kind that shows up, forgives, loves, and keeps going without needing applause. Later, that week, I met with a lawyer, not because I wanted to sue or fight, but because I needed to protect Caleb. If anything happened to Emily, I wanted legal custody, real rights, no questions. I told the lawyer everything, and after a pause, she said something I'll never forget. You're not the biological father, but legally, if you want to be, if you've raised him, claimed him, supported him, you can file for de facto parental status. The courts will see that. I left that office with something I hadn't felt in months. Control. This wasn't about revenge. This was about doing right by the child who still called me Dad without hesitation. Emily texted again that night. Thank you for today and for being more of a father than I ever deserved to give him. I didn't reply. Some gratitude doesn't need a response. Some things just need time. A month later, I filed the paperwork. The process wasn't fast, but I didn't care. I wasn't rushing into this out of anger or impulse. It was purpose. I wanted something on paper to reflect what had always been true in my heart. I was Caleb's father, not by blood, by presence, by choice. The social worker assigned to the case came by for a home visit, asked all the typical questions about finances, parenting responsibilities, routines. Then she asked one that caught me off guard. What makes you certain you want this? Responsibility, even after learning the truth. I looked around at the drawing Caleb made on the fridge, at the pair of shoes he always left by the door, at the picture of us fishing last summer. And then I said, because he didn't stop being my son. The moment I found out, I'd rather build my life around love than let DNA tear it apart. She smiled, wrote something down. A week later, Emily texted me again. This time, it wasn't about schedules or thank yous. It was different. He asked me last night why you and I don't hug anymore. I felt my heart cave a little. What did you tell him? I said that sometimes grown-ups need space to heal, and that no matter what, both his parents love him more than anything. For once, I couldn't find anything wrong with her. Answer. I just replied, Good. We kept doing our co-parenting thing. Caleb seemed stable, happy even. He started calling it Mom's house and Dad's house, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And maybe to him, it was. Kids adapt to truths faster than adults do. One night, while he was staying over with me, we sat on the floor building a Lego castle. Out of nowhere, he said, "You know, if I ever get married, I want to be like you." I froze, looked at him. Like me how? Like the kind of guy who never gives up on people. I didn't say anything. I just pulled him into a hug and whispered, "You're the reason I don't." The lawyer called 2 weeks later. The court had accepted my filing. Caleb was now, legally, my son. My name on the paperwork, my responsibility, my future. I didn't tell him right away, not because I wanted to hide it, but because I was waiting for the right moment. And when that moment came, it was quiet, just the two of us. I handed him the paperwork, told him in simple words what it meant. His eyes got wide. "So, we're like extra official now?" I laughed. "Yeah, buddy, we've always been official, but now the world knows it too." He smiled, then ran off to draw a picture of us holding a big sign that said, "Team Forever." It's been almost a year since the truth came out, and somehow I'm still standing. The house is quieter now, simpler, but there's peace in that quiet. The kind of peace that doesn't come from pretending everything's fine, but from surviving what wasn't. Emily and I never got back together. We talked, we co-parented, we forgave to a degree, but some cracks, even when filled, never hold the same shape again. She eventually moved into a new place, closer to Caleb's school. She still tries, brings muffins to parent-teacher night, volunteers at his soccer games. I respect that. I don't hate her, but I don't love her anymore, and that's okay. As for me, I'm still learning how to let go of the version of my life I thought I had. It doesn't happen all at once. Some days, I still flinch when I see photos of us from the early years, smiling at birthdays, standing in the hospital room, holding Caleb for the first time. It wasn't fake, it just wasn't full. But the love I gave was real, and that means something. Caleb is thriving. He's 9 now. Obsessed with dinosaurs, pizza rolls, and pretending our dog can speak Spanish. He still calls me Dad. He still runs into my arms after school, like nothing's changed. Because for him, nothing has. And for me, everything has. But love stayed. One night, we sat on the porch, watching lightning bugs. He asked me out of the blue, "Do you think I'll be a good dad someday?" I smiled. "If you love with your whole heart, and you show up, even when it's hard, then yeah. You'll be an amazing dad." He leaned his head on my shoulder. "Like you?" That broke me in the best way. Because in the end, that's what this story really is. Not about betrayal, not about DNA, but about love that doesn't flinch when it's tested. Love that chooses to stay. To anyone going through what I did, anyone questioning their place, their role, their worth after a revelation like mine, let me say this: you are not just your blood, you are your presence, your intention, your love. That's what makes a parent. That's what makes a man. I lost the fantasy, but I found the truth. And in the truth, I found my son.